My family gave my college fund to my sister because she has more potential. I paid my own way. Now I'm a partner at my firm. She's asking me for money. Potential doesn't pay rent. Hey Reddit. So my family gave my college fund to my sister because she had more potential. I paid my own way through school. Now I'm a partner at my firm, and guess who's asking for money? Grab your popcorn, because this is about to be the wildest tale of misplaced faith you've read all week. I'm 33 now, and my younger sister Jenny is 30. Growing up, our family was solidly middle class. Not rich, but comfortable enough that my parents started college funds for both of us when we were kids. The plan was simple. They'd contribute what they could, and by the time we hit 18, we'd each have around $40,000 to help with college. Nothing crazy, but enough to make a real difference. From the time I was old enough to understand money, my parents drilled into me that I needed to be responsible with that fund. I heard lectures about your future and making smart choices constantly. I couldn't buy a new video game without getting a speech about financial responsibility. Meanwhile, Jenny got whatever she wanted whenever she wanted it, because apparently different rules applied to her. Let me paint you a picture of our childhood. I was the boring kid. I played baseball, got decent grades, had a solid group of friends, and generally stayed out of trouble. I wasn't setting the world on fire, but I wasn't causing problems either. Just your average kid trying to figure out life. My parents' reaction to basically everything I did was a half-hearted nod of approval. B+ on a test? That's nice, honey. Made the baseball team? Good job. It was like being acknowledged by a robot, programmed to give minimum encouragement. Jenny, on the other hand, was special. She was in every advanced class, every honors program, every enrichment activity our school district offered. She played violin, participated in debate club, and had this whole gifted child thing going on. Don't get me wrong, she was genuinely smart. But the way my parents talked about her, you'd think she was destined to cure cancer and solve world hunger before her 25th birthday. Every dinner conversation revolved around Jenny's achievements. Jenny got first chair in the orchestra. Jenny's debate team won regionals. Jenny's teacher says she's the most talented student they've had in years. I could have walked in with a Nobel Prize, and my parents would have been like, "That's great, but did you hear about Jenny's science fair project?" The favoritism wasn't even subtle. For my 16th birthday, I got a $50 gift card to GameStop and a card that said, "Happy Birthday" with my dad's signature. For Jenny's 16th, they threw her a surprise party, invited 40 people, rented out a restaurant, and got her a MacBook Pro. When I asked why my birthday was different, my mom said, "Well, Jenny's going places. We need to support her ambitions." You know what message that sends to a kid? That you're the backup plan, the safety child, the one they're just kind of tolerating until the star of the family does something incredible. Senior year of high school, I applied to a bunch of state schools. Nothing fancy, just decent public universities where I could study business and hopefully graduate without drowning in debt. I got into my first choice, a solid state university about 2 hours from home. I was pumped. My parents' reaction was, "Oh, that's good." And then they went back to discussing Jenny's National Merit Scholarship application. Jenny was a junior at the time, but she was already being recruited by prestigious schools. We're talking Ivy League interest, scholarship offers, the works. She had her pick of the litter. My parents were losing their minds with pride. They talked about it constantly. Our daughter might go to Princeton. Yale sent her a personal letter. It was like living with her fan club. I started college in the fall of 2009. The economy was still recovering from the 2008 crash, and my parents sat me down before I left for school. This conversation is burned into my brain because it changed everything. My dad cleared his throat in that way he does when he's about to deliver bad news. "Son, we need to talk about your college fund." I figured they were going to tell me the fund had taken a hit in the market crash. That would suck, but I'd understand. What I wasn't prepared for was what came next. "We've made a decision," my mom said, not quite making eye contact. "We're reallocating your college fund to Jenny's education." I remember sitting there, trying to process what I'd just heard. "I'm sorry, what?" My dad jumped in, using his reasonable adult voice. "Jenny has been accepted to Columbia University. It's an incredible opportunity, but even with her scholarships, the costs are substantial. Your state school is much more affordable, and we think you'll be fine with student loans and part-time work." You're giving her my college fund," I said, just to make sure I understood correctly. "The fund you've been telling me my whole life was for my education." My mom got that defensive tone she uses when she knows she's being unfair, but doesn't want to admit it. "We're not giving it away. We're investing it where it will have the most impact." Jenny's going to do incredible things. She needs every advantage we can give her. And I don't? I asked. My dad waved his hand dismissively. You'll be fine. You're more practical. You don't need an Ivy League education to succeed. Jenny's different. She has real potential. There it was. The word that would haunt me for years. Potential. I didn't have potential. I was just practical. Boring. Safe. Not worth the investment. So let me get this straight, I said, feeling anger building in my chest. You spent my entire childhood telling me that fund was mine, and now you're just taking it? Because Jenny's special and I'm not? My mom actually rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic. This is about making smart choices for the family. When Jenny becomes successful, she'll be able to help all of us. Think of it as a long-term investment. Right. An investment that I apparently wasn't worth making. I asked if they were at least going to leave me something. Anything. My dad said they'd keep $5,000 in my fund for emergencies, but the rest, about $35,000, was going to Jenny. He said this like he was being generous, like leaving me with a fraction of what was supposed to be mine was some kind of gift. I left for college a week later, feeling completely betrayed. That $5,000 emergency fund lasted exactly one semester. Books, housing, meal plan, fees, it all added up fast. By January, I was applying for every loan I could get and looking for a job. I ended up working at a grocery store 25 hours a week while taking a full course load. My schedule was brutal. Classes from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. most days, then work from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. I'd get home, study until midnight, sleep for 6 hours, and do it all again. Weekends were for catching up on assignments I didn't finish during the week and picking up extra shifts when I could. Meanwhile, Jenny was living her best life at Columbia. My parents posted constant updates on Facebook about her achievements. Jenny made Dean's List. Jenny's doing research with a renowned professor. Jenny's spending spring break at a conference in London. Every post felt like a knife in the gut. I'd call home occasionally, and the conversations were always the same. They'd ask how school was going in that tone that implied they didn't really care about the answer, then spend 30 minutes talking about whatever amazing thing Jenny was doing that week. When I mentioned I was working 25 hours a week on top of classes, my dad said, "Good, builds character." Brie, when Jenny got a prestigious unpaid internship that my parents had to help fund, it was celebrated like she'd won a MacArthur grant. The breaking point came during my sophomore year. I was drowning in student loan debt, working myself to exhaustion, and barely keeping my grades above a 3.0. I called home and asked if they could help me out, just a little. Maybe a couple $100 a month to ease the pressure. I wasn't even asking for much, just enough so I could cut back my work hours and focus more on school. My mom actually laughed. "Honey, we can't do that. We're already stretched thin helping Jenny with her expenses. Columbia is expensive, you know." "I know," I said. "That's why you gave her my college fund." She got quiet. Then she said, "We did what was best for the family. Jenny's going to make us all proud one day. You need to stop being bitter about this." I hung up. I didn't call home for 6 months after that. They didn't even notice. The final year of college was the hardest. I was taking 18 credits, working 30 hours a week, and applying for jobs while trying to maintain the GPA I needed to graduate. I remember one particular week where I worked a double shift Saturday, had a major exam Monday, a group project due Wednesday, and 2 job interviews Thursday and Friday. I got maybe 15 hours of sleep total that week. I was running on energy drinks and pure spite. During finals week of senior year, I got the stomach virus from hell, probably from one of the kids I worked with at the grocery store. I was so sick I could barely stand, but I had 3 finals and my shifts at work. I couldn't afford to miss work because I needed every dollar for graduation fees and moving expenses. I took my finals while fighting off waves of nausea and worked my shifts popping anti-nausea medication every 4 hours. I called my mom, thinking maybe she'd offer some sympathy or ask if I needed anything. She told me to drink water and get rest, then spent 20 minutes telling me about the amazing graduation party they were planning for Jenny. They'd invited 100 people, rented a venue, hired a caterer. The whole thing was going to cost around $8,000. I was too sick and tired to even be angry. I graduated in 4 years with a degree in finance and about $80,000 in student loan debt. My graduation was on a Saturday at 10 a.m. I walked across that stage, got my diploma, and sat in the audience afterward with my roommate's family because mine couldn't be bothered to show up. Why couldn't they come? Because they were all in New York celebrating Jenny's graduation from Columbia, which had been a week earlier. My graduation conflicted with the fancy brunch they'd planned for Jenny's graduation party aftermath, When I'd told them my graduation date months earlier, my mom had sighed and said, "Oh, honey, that's the same weekend as Jenny's celebration events. We can't possibly miss those. But we're very proud of you." They sent me a card. Inside was a $100 check and a note that said, "Congratulations on your achievement. Love, Mom and Dad." The card had a stock photo of a generic graduate on it. They'd probably grabbed it from the drugstore on their way to the airport to visit Jenny. Jenny graduated with honors, double major in political science and economics, already had a job lined up at a prestigious nonprofit in Manhattan. My parents posted about 50 photos on Facebook from her graduation and the following celebration. Shots of her in her cap and gown, shots of the family at fancy restaurants, shots of them touring New York together. I wasn't in any of them, obviously. I was 800 miles away, sitting in my dorm room packing boxes by myself. My parents couldn't stop talking about how proud they were of Jenny. My mom changed her Facebook profile picture to one of her and Jenny at graduation, both of them beaming. It stayed that way for 2 years. My dad's profile picture became one of Jenny giving her salutatorian speech. Meanwhile, I'm pretty sure I wasn't even mentioned on their social media, except for one post my mom made that said, "Both our kids graduated college this month. So proud," with about 15 photos, 14 of Jenny, and one of my high school graduation picture from 4 years earlier. I moved to Chicago for a job at a mid-sized accounting firm. The salary was $52,000 a year, which sounded like a fortune until I calculated how much would go to taxes, rent, food, transportation, and my massive student loan payments. The work was mind-numbing, mostly tax prep and basic bookkeeping for small businesses. The hours were long, especially during tax season when 70-hour weeks were standard. The pay was just okay, but it was a start. I lived in a studio apartment in a sketchy part of the city that was basically a closet with a window. The place was 400 square feet, had a radiator that clanged like a prison riot all winter, and a neighbor who practiced drums at 2 a.m. But it was $700 a month, which was all I could afford after my student loan payments. I furnished it with stuff I found on Craigslist and one decent mattress I'd saved up for because my back was killing me from sleeping on a futon for 3 months. I ate ramen more nights than I'd like to admit. Not because I couldn't cook, but because after working 12 hours and commuting an hour each way on public transit, I barely had energy to boil water. My grocery budget was $150 a month. I learned to make one rotisserie chicken last a week. I bought the big bags of rice and beans. I clipped coupons like a Depression-era grandma. Every spare dollar went to my student loans because I was determined to get out from under that debt as fast as possible. My loan payment was $850 a month on the standard 10-year plan. I was paying $1,200 a month, sometimes more if I picked up weekend shifts doing freelance bookkeeping. I wanted that debt gone. I needed it gone. Every month I made that payment, I thought about how I wouldn't be in this situation if my parents had just split the college fund fairly. If they'd given me even half of what they gave Jenny, I'd have graduated with maybe $30,000 in debt instead of $80,000. That $50,000 difference was crushing me. Meanwhile, Jenny was thriving in New York. Or at least that's what my parents told everyone. She was changing the world at her nonprofit job, making important connections, and building an impressive career. My parents visited her constantly, posting pictures of fancy restaurants and Broadway shows. When I asked if they wanted to visit me in Chicago, my mom said, "Maybe next year, honey. We're just so busy." Years passed. I worked my tail off at that accounting firm, putting in 60-hour weeks, taking on every project nobody else wanted, and slowly building a reputation as someone who got things done. I paid off my student loans by the time I was 28, all $80,000 of them. Nobody in my family even acknowledged it when I told them. My dad just said, "See, we told you that you'd be fine." I switched firms when I was 29, moving to a larger company with better opportunities. The work was even more intense, but the pay was significantly better. I finally moved out of my shoebox apartment into an actual one-bedroom. I started saving money for the first time in my adult life. It felt incredible. At 31, I made senior accountant. At 32, I was promoted to manager. And at 33, just 2 months ago, I made partner. Partner. At 33. I'm one of the youngest partners in my firm's history. The announcement came with a significant raise, profit sharing, and my name on the door. Literal, my name on the door partnership. I'd made it. I called my parents to tell them. I was genuinely excited, despite everything. Part of me still wanted their approval, still wanted them to be proud of me. My mom answered the phone. "Hey Mom, I have some great news," I started. "Oh, that's nice, dear. Listen, we're actually about to head out. Can this wait? It'll just take a second. I made partner at my firm. Silence. Then, oh, that's nice. Good for you. That was it. That's nice. Good for you. Like I'd told her I'd tried a new coffee shop. Not that I'd achieved something most people spend their entire careers working toward. Mom, did you hear me? I made partner. At 33. That's a pretty big deal. Yes, I heard you. We're very happy for you. Listen, I really need to go. Jenny's going through something right now and needs us to be available for her. Of course. Jenny needed something. I hung up without saying bye. I didn't cry. I'd learned a long time ago that my family's approval wasn't something I was ever going to get. But it still stung. A week later, I got a text from Jenny. Not congratulations on making partner. Not even a, hey, heard your news. Just, can I call you? I need to talk to you about something important. I almost didn't respond. Jenny and I weren't close. We'd been civil over the years, but there was always this weird tension between us. She knew our parents favored her. I knew it. Everyone knew it. She never acknowledged it, never apologized for it, just accepted it as her due and moved on with her life. But curiosity got the better of me, so I texted back, sure. She called within 2 minutes. No pleasantries, just straight to the point. I'm in a really bad financial situation, she said. I need to ask you for money. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. The irony was too perfect. You need money from me? I know it's awkward, she continued, but I didn't know who else to ask. Mom and Dad can't help, and you're the only person I know who's doing well financially. What happened to your job? I asked. Last I heard, you were doing incredible things at that nonprofit. She sighed. I left that job 3 years ago. It wasn't paying enough, and I had all this student debt from grad school. Wait, grad school? I thought Mom and Dad paid for Columbia with my college fund. They did, she said, but I went back for my master's. They helped some, but I had to take out loans for most of it. And the job you got after your master's? Another sigh. I've had a few jobs. None of them really worked out. The nonprofit sector doesn't pay well, and I've had some setbacks. I let the silence stretch out, waiting for her to elaborate. When she didn't, I asked, what kind of setbacks? I'd rather not get into it over the phone, she said. The point is, I'm struggling right now. I have about $60,000 in credit card debt on top of my student loans, and I'm barely making minimum payments. I'm drowning, and I need help. $60,000 in credit card debt, on top of student loans. I didn't even want to know what the student loan amount was. What do you need from me? I asked, though I already knew the answer. I was hoping you could loan me some money, maybe $30,000, just to help me get back on my feet. I'll pay you back, I promise. $30,000. She wanted me to loan her $30,000, the same amount she got from my college fund that was supposed to be mine. Jenny, I said, keeping my voice calm, you took my college fund. You went to Columbia on my dime. Mom and Dad invested in you because you had potential. Remember? I was just the practical one who'd be fine with student loans. That wasn't my decision, she said quickly. That was Mom and Dad. But you didn't say no, did you? You didn't tell them it was wrong. You just took the money and ran with it. I was 17. I didn't understand what they were doing. But you understand now, I said, and you've never once acknowledged it. Never apologized. Never even mentioned it. You just acted like you deserved it. She was quiet for a moment. Then, in a small voice, I did deserve it. I was a good student. I worked hard. So did I shot back. I worked 25 hours a week while going to school full-time. I ate ramen and lived in a closet and graduated with $80,000 in debt because you deserved my college fund. And now you're asking me for money because you mismanaged the advantages you were handed? This isn't about the past, she said, her voice getting defensive. This is about me asking my brother for help. I'm in trouble, and I need support. Where was my support when I was drowning in debt? I asked. Where was the family investment in me? Where was the belief in my potential? You're being petty, she said. I'm being realistic, I corrected. I paid my own way. I worked my tail off to get where I am. Nobody handed me anything. And now you want me to bail you out of a situation you created? I thought you'd understand, she said, and I could hear tears in her voice. I thought you'd want to help family. Family, I repeated. Right. The same family that gave away my college fund. The same family that couldn't even be bothered to congratulate me on making partner. That family. Mom told me about you making partner, Jenny said. Congratulations. You've clearly done well for yourself. So why can't you help me? Because potential doesn't pay rent, Jenny. Results do. And you've had every advantage handed to you. And you've squandered it. That's not my problem. She started crying. I can't believe you're being so cruel about this. I'm your sister. I'm asking for help. And I'm your brother who you never gave a second thought to when you were living off my college fund. I'm the brother whose graduation you didn't attend. I'm the brother Mom and Dad have been comparing you to favorably for our entire lives. So no, Jenny, I'm not loaning you money. So you're just going to let me suffer? She asked through her tears. I'm going to let you figure it out the same way I had to, I said. Get a second job, cut your expenses, make a budget, pay off your debt slowly. It's character building, remember? That's what Dad told me. She hung up on me. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom. I almost didn't answer, but I knew if I didn't, she'd just keep calling. How could you say no to your sister? She started before I could even say hello. She's in trouble and she needs help. She needs $30,000, I corrected. There's a difference between help and a bailout. She's family. You help family. Where was this energy when I needed help? I asked. Where was the family support when I was working myself to death trying to pay for school? When I asked for a couple $100s a month and you laughed at me? That was different, my mom said. You were fine. Jenny's in real trouble. I was in real trouble too, Mom. I was drowning. But you didn't care because I wasn't the special one. I was just practical. Remember? You're still bitter about the college fund, she said accusingly. After all these years, you're still holding a grudge. I'm not holding a grudge, I said. I'm applying the same logic you used. You invested in Jenny because she had potential. That investment didn't pay off. That's not my problem. She's your sister, and I'm your son, I shot back. A son you've ignored and dismissed my entire life. A son who paid his own way, who worked his tail off, who made something of himself without your help or support. And now you want me to hand over $30,000 to bail out the daughter you actually cared about? The daughter who wasted every advantage you gave her? My mom was quiet for a moment. Then, you've become very hard. I became very realistic, I corrected. I learned that I couldn't count on family. I learned that I was on my own. You taught me that, Mom. You and Dad. And now you're upset that I actually learned the lesson? If you don't help your sister, I don't know what we're going to do, she said, and I could hear the manipulation in her voice. The guilt trip. You'll figure it out, I said. Just like I had to. Maybe you can reallocate some funds. Isn't that what you called it? Reallocating? I hung up before she could respond. My dad called an hour later. Same conversation, different voice. How could I be so selfish? How could I turn my back on family? Didn't I understand that Jenny needed help? I gave him the same answers I gave my mom. He told me I was being vindictive and that I was punishing Jenny for decisions she didn't make. I told him she benefited from those decisions for years and never once objected. He called me ungrateful. I asked what exactly I should be grateful for. He hung up on me. Jenny sent me a long text that night. It was full of apologies, explanations, and justifications. She was sorry for how things had gone. She didn't realize how hard it had been for me. She understood I was hurt, but she was drowning and she needed help, and couldn't I see past our history to help her now? She promised she'd changed. She promised she'd pay me back. She promised this was a one-time thing. I read it twice. Then I deleted it. The next day, my mom called again. This time, her approach was different. She was nice, sweet even. She asked how I was doing, congratulated me on making partner, said she was proud of me. It was so transparent it would have been funny if it wasn't so sad. Then she got to the point. I know you're upset about the college fund. I can see now that maybe we didn't handle that fairly. Maybe? I said. Okay, we didn't handle it fairly, she admitted. We made a mistake. We should have split it between you and Jenny. We should have found another way to help her pay for Columbia. We were wrong. I waited. There was clearly more coming. But that's in the past, she continued. And right now, your sister needs help. She's made some mistakes with money, but she's learned from them. She just needs a chance to get back on her feet. With $30,000 of my money, I said. It's not that much for you, my mom said. You just made partner. You're doing well. For you, $30,000 is manageable. For Jenny, it's the difference between sinking and swimming. Mom, I said slowly, do you hear yourself? You're literally asking me to give Jenny money because I worked hard and succeeded, while she wasted every advantage you gave her. You're asking me to reward her failure and punish my success. That's not what I'm doing, she protested. That's exactly what you're doing, I said. And the answer is still no. What about $20,000 then? She tried. Or even $15,000. Something to help her get started? The answer is no to any amount, I said firmly. This isn't about the money, Mom. This is about the principle. You chose Jenny over me. You invested in her future and left me to fend for myself. That was your choice. Now she needs to deal with the consequences of her choices, just like I had to deal with the consequences of yours. My mom's voice got cold. So you're just going to watch your sister suffer? I'm going to watch her figure it out, I corrected. The same way I had to. Character building, remember? She hung up. The calls and texts continued for a few days. Jenny, my parents, even my aunt called to tell me I was being unreasonable. Everyone had an opinion about what I should do with my money. Nobody seemed to care about what had been done to me. Finally, I sent a group text to my parents and Jenny. I'm not changing my mind. Stop asking. If you continue to harass me about this, I'll block all of you. My dad responded, we're just trying to help our daughter. I wrote back, you have 2 children. You chose to help one. The other one helped himself. Now you have to live with that choice. And for the record, I am your daughter too. My mom's response, we never said you weren't. I replied, you didn't have to say it. You showed it every day of my life. The college fund was just the most obvious example. Jenny texted separately. I'm sorry you feel like we didn't care about you. That was never the intention. But I'm really struggling here. And I don't understand why you can't help me when you have the means. I wrote back one last time. You had the means, Jenny. You had my college fund, my parents' support, every advantage I never got. You had potential, remember? I was just the practical one, the boring one, the one who'd be fine. And I am fine. I'm better than fine. I'm a partner at my firm. I'm debt-free, and I'm successful. Not because of family support, but despite the lack of it. You had all the support, all the advantages, and you're asking me for money. Think about what that says. She didn't respond. It's been 3 weeks since Jenny first asked for money. My parents have stopped calling. Jenny sends the occasional text about how hard things are, but I don't respond. I've made my position clear. Yesterday, I got a text from Jenny. I got a second job, working retail on weekends. It sucks, but I need the money. I guess you were right about character building. I almost responded. Almost. But I didn't, because this isn't about me being right or her being wrong. This is about consequences and choices and learning that potential means nothing if you don't back it up with action. I worked 25 hours a week while going to school full-time. I ate ramen. I lived in a closet. I paid off $80,000 in debt by working my tail off. I made partner at 33 because I never had the luxury of relying on anyone else. Jenny had every advantage. She had support. She had encouragement. She had my college fund. And she squandered it. That's not my problem to fix. My parents invested in potential. I invested in results. And that's the difference. Last night, I went out to celebrate making partner with some colleagues. We went to a nice steakhouse, the kind of place I never could have afforded when I was younger. I ordered the expensive wine. I got dessert. I enjoyed every minute of it, because I earned it, every bit of it, without help, without support, without someone believing in my potential. I just did the work. Potential doesn't pay rent. Results do. And I've got plenty of results to show for my efforts. My family made their choice when I was 18. They chose Jenny. They chose potential over practicality. They chose who to invest in. Now I'm making my choice. I'm choosing me. I'm choosing to invest in my own future, not to bail out someone who wasted every advantage they were given. And if that makes me the bad guy in their story, I can live with that. Because in my story, I'm the guy who succeeded despite everything. I'm the guy who made it on his own. I'm the partner at 33 who did it without a college fund, without family support, without anyone believing in his potential. And that's a story I'm proud of. Jenny texted me again this morning. I understand why you said no. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. For what it's worth, I am proud of you for making partner. Even if I never showed it, I always knew you'd succeed. You were always the reliable one. I stared at that text for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to engage, to maybe start building a better relationship with my sister. But the bigger part of me, the part that remembers every slight, every dismissal, every time I was made to feel less than, that part couldn't let it go. Because being the reliable one isn't a compliment when it means you're the one nobody cares about until they need something. Being the one who'll be fine isn't reassuring when it means nobody checks to see if you actually are fine. I was fine. But not because anyone helped me. Because I helped myself. So I didn't respond to Jenny's text. I just archived it and went to work. My parents called last week to tell me they're helping Jenny consolidate her debt and co-signing a loan for her. They're also letting her move back home rent-free while she gets back on her feet. Jenny's 30 years old. They didn't ask for my help this time. They just informed me of what they were doing. I think expecting me to feel guilty or maybe offer to contribute. I just said, okay, good luck with that, and hung up. My mom called back immediately. That's all you have to say? What else is there to say? I asked. You're helping Jenny. That's what you've always done. I'm not surprised. We helped you too, she said defensively. We raised you. We gave you a home. You gave me a home that I paid rent for, I corrected. And you raised me to believe I had a college fund until you decided to give it to someone else. Those aren't the flex you think they are, Mom. You're never going to let that go, are you? She asked. Probably not, I admitted. Because it wasn't just about the money. It was about what it represented. You chose Jenny over me. You decided she was worth investing in, and I wasn't. You told me in no uncertain terms that I was worth less than her. And now you're surprised that I don't want to play happy family? We never said you were worth less, my mom said quietly. You didn't have to say it, I replied. You showed it, over and over again. The college fund was just the most expensive example. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you did that to me, I said. And I hung up. I don't know if I'll ever have a real relationship with my family again. Part of me thinks I should forgive them, move on, be the bigger person. But the bigger part of me, the part that spent 4 years working myself to exhaustion while watching my sister coast on advantages that should have been split between us, that part isn't ready to forgive. Maybe I never will be. Maybe that makes me petty. Maybe it makes me bitter. Update. A lot of people in the comments are asking what happened to Jenny that caused all this debt and why she's struggling so much after having so many advantages. I asked my mom straight up after seeing these questions, because I was curious too. Turns out Jenny's setbacks were more her own doing than I realized. After Columbia, she took a job at a prestigious nonprofit in Manhattan, making about $45,000 a year. Not amazing, but not terrible for entry level in a field she was passionate about. The problem? She wanted to live the New York lifestyle she'd seen on TV. She rented an apartment in Manhattan that cost $2,500 a month, instead of getting roommates in Brooklyn or Queens. She ate out constantly at trendy restaurants. She bought expensive clothes because she needed to look professional. She went to concerts, shows, and events because networking. Within a year, she had $15,000 in credit card debt. My parents bailed her out, paid off the cards, told her to be more careful. She promised she would be. Then she decided she needed a master's degree to advance her career. She got into NYU for their nonprofit management program. My parents helped with some of it, but most of it was loans. Another $60,000 in debt. She graduated and took another nonprofit job, making $55,000 a year, barely more than before. But now she had a master's degree, so she deserved a nicer apartment. $3,000 a month this time. The credit cards came out again. Shopping, restaurants, trips to visit friends in other cities. She was young and deserved to enjoy her life, according to my mom. My parents bailed her out again. Another $20,000 in credit card debt. They told her this was the last time. She promised she'd change. She didn't. She bounced between a few different nonprofit jobs, never staying anywhere longer than 18 months. Always had an excuse for why she left. The work wasn't fulfilling. Her boss was difficult. The organization was poorly managed. Never her fault. The credit card debt kept growing. My parents stopped bailing her out, but they also didn't stop enabling her. They sent her money for groceries that probably went to her favorite wine bar. They loaned her money for rent that was never paid back. They funded her lifestyle while calling it support. 3 months ago, she quit her job without having another one lined up because she was burnt out. She's been applying to positions but keeps getting rejected, probably because she's been job hopping for years, and her resume looks like someone who can't commit to anything. Now she's $60,000 in credit card debt, has about $85,000 in student loans, no job, and is living off of unemployment and her part-time retail gig while my parents co-sign loans to consolidate her debt. This is the potential they invested in. This is the person they chose over me. And people wonder why I won't help. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.